My name is Marley Ramstead. I am 32 years old. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis January of 2015. At the time, I was living and working in Austin, Texas. I am originally from Minneapolis, so it was kind of a total cultural and weather shift, as well as kind of at the time I was not taking very good care of myself. I was mentally and emotionally pretty stressed out, pretty strung out. I was really trying to be somebody that I thought I was supposed to be. I had a lot of really intense feelings about myself, negative feelings about myself, self-criticisms, some pretty deep-seated self-doubt and hatred that was seeping into my relationship, my work, and really mostly I was able to kind of stuff it and be positive and fabulous, but on the outside, but really I was struggling with some pretty serious self-doubt, fear, and things like that. So my MS started really with my right arm in like December of that kind of same time period. So I got diagnosed in January. So it was about like in the beginning of December that I noticed that my arm was just kind of not, it's like, it was just kind of numb and my fingers would get tingly and kind of turn on and off. And at the time I was also doing a lot of travel for work. And so I work in advertising. So there's a lot of drinking and a lot of eating, pretty decadent meals and things like that. So I wasn't getting a lot of sleep and I was traveling all over the country, probably traveling, I think December, I traveled probably, 20 days out of the month. So I thought maybe it was just because I was traveling and maybe I was just kind of fatigued and maybe I just had some pinched nerve or something from getting in and out of taxis and being on planes so much. But then it escalated. As I said, at the beginning of January, I got very dizzy one day, felt like I was going to faint, felt like I was going to throw up. My legs turned on is what I call it. They got really tingly and numb, and I had kind of shooting energy, like nerve firings in my legs and all up and down my legs. And then my left arm was also kind of tingly, but my right arm was pretty much dead. So I kind of freaked out and I went to the emergency room at that time. They diagnosed me with sciatica, which is what they always do, but they sent me to a neurologist who sent me in for the MRIs. By the time we got the MRI results back, I had actually, my condition had worsened from the tingling legs and the numb arm and the dizziness and to actual blindness. So my eyes actually stopped being able to see. I stopped being able to see, and at its worst, I mean, it was a very gradual thing. And I kind of didn't notice it at first. I just kind of started bumping into things and kind of like feeling like unsure of my steps and not wearing heels anymore. Then it slowly progressed to the point where I, literally had like a little pin-sized, maybe this much. All of my peripheral vision was gone, and just about this much of my eyes were working. I could barely see. So obviously that was a cause for concern. And actually the same day that my vision was at its worst was the same day I got my MRI results back. And the neurologist was like, do not pass go, do not collect $200. You need to go now. You've got giant lesions in your brain and all over your neck. So you need to go. So I went to the emergency room, and they, again, spinal tap, the whole thing. Threw me into the MRI for a few hours and did a full body, came back, 10 days later, with the steroid shots and stuff, I was released and diagnosed with MS. One of the things that I attribute to my regaining of my health is dietary changes and a whole overhaul of my immune system. But I think what really pushed my healing to the next level, because even on the the diet and doing all of those changes, there were still a lot of, my legs were still turning on. I was still having some symptoms. I was still also being plagued with all of the same mental and emotional issues that I had experienced before I went into the hospital. So while the MS forced me to look at my body as a body, and think about my immune system and think about, what food I put in my body causes what kinds of things to react or erupt, or and what kind of food can stabilize my immune system and help me stay at a level space. I think that was me understanding my body, but I didn't really understand, I think, until Ava, how much my mind and feeling about myself contributed to my MS symptoms. The work that I've done with Ava has been exceptionally successful. I want to say that I would not be where I am today from a healing journey standpoint without Ava. We would go, for example, into a deep hypnosis, and we talk to my symptoms. We talked to my numb right arm, which took a long time to get to where that came from. We did a lot of sessions around why my right arm was numb. We did a lot of sessions around why my legs would turn on and go numb and become weak. I have occasional dizziness and vertigo that I experience. And we went into that. And then, as we kind of went into these different symptoms, we discovered aspects of myself that were kind of causing these symptoms, or that were, that we identified as being, deeply rooted beliefs that were, causing my nerves to turn on, causing my body to react to these horrible things I was saying to myself, or horrible things I was doing to myself subconsciously, mentally, spiritually. And when we kind of were able to break them apart, the symptoms broke apart too. Right. Ava and I actually have a special relationship because we actually do this over FaceTime and on the internet. So, I mean, I can imagine that it might be a little bit different for someone who's in the room, maybe a little bit even more intimate than the intimacy that I have developed with Ava. I'm aware of and fully conscious of what's happening, and I'm describing what's on the other side of the door to Ava. And she's prompting me with gentle, reassuring questions to kind of get at the root of, what's causing this numbness, pain, or whatever it is. So at that point, I think that the session can last anywhere from, an hour to 2 hours, and Ava has a very innate sense of knowing, kind of, that the issue's been identified, that we've talked it out, that we've broken it apart. If I could kind of summarize quickly where I was and where I am now, I think that I left Texas. Just on the very obvious, I left Texas. I moved back to my home, where all my friends and family are, who know me, who love me, who provide an incredible supportive community to me. I also broke off the relationship that I was in that just didn't feel like me, didn't feel right. And I started writing again. I was at 10% Marley, 10% capacity, like 10% functioning. I was super anxious, very, very afraid. I couldn't calm down. I had racing, horrible thoughts. And I didn't love myself very much. I didn't really like myself. I wasn't taking very good care of myself, physically, emotionally, and otherwise. And I think it is night and day. It really is. I'm operating at a good, depending on the week, on a good like 60 to 90% now. And of course that, 40% is, like I said, those sometimes those patterns emerge, long held beliefs about myself. So hard to break those things down. So we continue to work on those. But I think as far as like anxiety levels, self-doubt, all of symptoms of the MS, all kinds of, self-hatred. I mean, really just like brutal cruelty to myself. I think, we've pretty much eliminated that cruel voice that used to attack my better judgment, my better sense of myself. So it sounds crazy, but we have these things that we tell ourselves, and we don't have to tell ourselves those stories. We're not beholden to those stories, and we can change them. We can alter the course of our lives by healing our way of thinking about things. I don't feel like I have a degenerative nerve disease. I feel like I have a manageable condition that sometimes will present itself if I'm not being good to myself, if I'm not listening to myself, if I'm not doing all of the things that I've worked so hard on with Ava. So for example, if my hand does act up, because sometimes it will, very, very rarely, I think to myself, okay, what's going on? What's going on? Like, what are you just stopping and noticing that I'm having a symptom and tracking back my thought patterns or my behavior towards myself will help me kind of shake it out and really, in all intents and purposes, eliminate the symptom that I'm having. The most important thing is to trust yourself, to trust Ava, and to trust that through the process, amazing, miraculous things will happen. But it's about being in it. And I think a lot of people can't give up that sense of, I'm thinking with my frontal lobe. I'm here. This is me. This is me. This is me. But we're so much more than our faces and this front side of our brains. There's so much storytelling that we do all the time to ourselves, and sometimes to the derailment and disease of ourselves. So I feel like I diseased my own body, and I was mentally a big part of the reason why I lost my vision. It's some ways a metaphor to me. Like, I wasn't following my dreams. I wasn't going down the path of the Marley that I believed that I was. I was denying parts of myself. I was not being true to myself. I wasn't writing. I wasn't doing all of the things that make me feel the most myself, that make me the most connected to myself. I was denying all of those things. And I was going down a path that was very antithetical to who I am. And I literally lost my vision. I lost my vision of myself, as a metaphor, which I find is very profound as a poet. So, I think that's really interesting too, how your symptoms express themselves, right? Like I'm right-handed. And my handwriting got all chicken scratch and I couldn't use my hand. And when I started pushing through and doing the work and writing again, the symptom hasn't come back and I haven't lost my vision again. So I think that it's interesting the way that the symptoms manifest themselves in your body, and to think about them also as a story that your body is telling you based on the stories you're telling yourself. So the more you kind of break apart those negative stories, the more your body will break apart the symptoms that are causing you suffering. I don't think that hypnosis is one of those, like, it's not automatic, right? It's not going to be like you take some Advil and your headache goes away, or you take a sleeping pill and you fall asleep, or whatever. It's not like that. There's no magic number. There's no magic, 3 sessions and you're healed. Like, no, like that's never going to happen. It's a process, and it's about learning about yourself, about growing about yourself, and also learning and growing with Ava, because she learns and grows with you. And I think that that relationship is really important to your journey, because you have someone that you can trust with these really, really deep and intimate pieces of your subconscious and these really, really scary symptoms. And the more you're willing to go there, the more rapid the healing will be, right? Because you're making the decision to commit to yourself, and you believe that you can be a better version of yourself. Like, I instantly feel like a sense of relief, a sense of reconnection to myself, a sense of release and profound understanding of what's going on, and tools to help me kind of maintain any sort of change that happened during the session. Is a process that, to me, has tangible results, like physical, tangible results. Like when I go into hypnotherapy and I come out and I can sleep, like I don't have night terrors. Like, that's, to me, that is like pretty huge, right? Like, and so to me, the hypnotherapy hits me in a space that I need in order to make any sort of change. That if I can do it, if I can literally get all feeling back in my arm and be able to blow dry my own hair again, it's a big deal.